Have you ever noticed how everyone at work seems to be dragging these days? It's like coffee, no matter how powerful, isn't doing the trick anymore. And tired has become the new normal. Well, here's the thing. That exhaustion is costing your business a lot. And that's what we're talking about today on Experience Leadership.
Welcome to Experience Leadership, a podcast that challenges small business owners and entrepreneurs, just like you, to dare to be the exception. Join our host, customer experience expert Mark Hain, as he uncovers relevant and timely content to help you script and direct your business and teams to create jaw-dropping experiences your customers and staff deserve. Here is the host of Experience Leadership, author of Lights, Camera, Action, customer experience expert, Mark Hain.
Welcome to this episode. I'm so glad that you are here with me today. I am your host, customer and employee experience strategist, Mark Hain, and today my guest is the founder of the Vitality Formula, Dr. Labib GHULMIYYAH. And we are going to be tackling a problem that is sneaking up on companies everywhere, and that is chronic fatigue. So stay with us, and if you haven't done so yet, please go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. I don't know if something has changed since the pandemic. I do know that employee well-being has been on the hot list of many companies trying their best to counter things like burnout, low productivity, and slumping employee performance. It seems like we're all running at full speed trying to keep up with the demands of the day-to-day, but here's the kicker. It's not just a rough patch. This is costing our businesses big time. And that brings us to our question of the day. So, have you ever stopped to calculate how much your team's fatigue might actually be costing your business in lost productivity and innovation? Could this be the root cause of a deeper issue impacting your operational success and financial stability? I'd love for you to kind of comment on this. Go ahead and share your experience. It'd be better if maybe you can share a link to this episode on your favorite social media platform, hashtag it Experience Leadership, and then put down your own comments. What are you experiencing at work? And what do you think this is costing you? As I mentioned, joining us today is someone who is not just a doctor, but a powerhouse when it comes to understanding how to keep people and businesses alive and kicking. Because let's be honest, we all have felt that midday slump. But Dr. Labib GHULMIYYAH knows it's more than just a need for stronger coffee. Dr. Labib is a double board certified OB/GYN and a maternal-fetal medicine specialist. He's also the brain behind the Vitality Formula, a game-changing approach to beating workplace fatigue. He's also the author of a brand new book called Gen Talks, Live Clean. Dr. Labib, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you.
Hello, Mark. How are you? Thank you for having me. It's a great honor to be here.
Oh, the honor's all mine, trust me. Hey, so maybe you could start off by telling us a little bit about how you serve your business clients. I know you do a lot of training, a lot of speaking. What else?
Yeah, so I think the first question is like, how did I get into this whole, well-being and the vitality formula? So as an OB/GYN, I, of course, take care of women, pregnant patients. But again, what happened to me is, from my life experience and trying to solve my own problem, I noticed that, I wasn't the only one struggling with burnout and with fatigue. Midday, right after lunch, like I would shut down. I couldn't, function anymore. I wanted a solution. So based on what happened with me, I, created the Vitality Formula, and I'm really like, I want to talk about it. I want to raise awareness. I want everybody to try to help people that are struggling, that struggle the same way I struggled, get over this pandemic, because you called it a pandemic, and I definitely think it's a pandemic, and I want to get to the root cause of it. And these are the two words that you used, and I fully agree with you that we need to get to the root cause.
Yep.
And solve this pandemic.
So how would you describe the current state of workplace fatigue? We've been hearing a lot about it and wellness and burnout and all this sort of stuff. What's going on in our businesses right now?
I think, this problem is affecting all type of businesses, whether it's, small businesses, large businesses, hospitals. It's really something that's a pandemic, basically. So everybody's struggling. And I think, of course, the COVID pandemic maybe unmasked it, but it's been there for several years and maybe decades. Nobody was talking about it. Everybody was going along with their jobs and trying to survive day by day and trying to saying, no, this is how it's supposed to be. It's normal for me to feel fatigued after a long day. And maybe because I'm aging, I'm getting older. But, this is not the issue. Yes.
Yeah, you just mentioned one of the misconceptions being kind of like, this is our normal, that we walk around thinking this is our normal. Are there any other big misconceptions about chronic fatigue, especially in the professional world? You mentioned in your background being in healthcare. I'm seeing it all over the place, but what other misconceptions do we have?
Yeah, I think the first thing they need to differentiate is between, fatigue or acute fatigue that happens, let's say, after we go to the gym or, do something strenuous. Everybody gets fatigued. I mean, our cells produce a lot of energy and, there's a small organelle inside our cells called the mitochondria. And, the mitochondria, as we get a bit older, we lose some of these mitochondria. So it's normal to feel fatigue after a strenuous day. But I think the problem is not an acute. This is something that's chronic and that's been going on for a long period of time. And this is what puts us down like a step below where we're supposed to be normal. And one of the misconceptions is like, oh, I need to drink coffee or take some energy drink or something, a pill that will give me some energy to finish up the day and be strong the whole day. But this is not really the main problem. I think this is one of the misconceptions that I can take something and solve it. That's one. Two, the other thing is people think it's a quick fix, and it's going to take a couple of days or a week and I'm done. No, this is a process that, you have to put effort in it and it takes time for you to regain, your baseline energy level. And then you can even improve it further by, trying, new things, living healthier. And actually, I think identifying what's making you drained is key because there are many stresses in our lives that we might not pay attention to.
Okay.
And if you have an open eye or if you kind of reframe the way you look at your health and about your environment, this will help you a lot. So I tell people you have to go back, feel like you're in a drone and you're looking at your life from a drone and try to see what's pulling you and, causing you to be fatigued and work on each step slowly and take baby steps. It cannot happen overnight. So as long as you remove some of these stressors, and even if you remove a tiny bit of them, you will find a difference in your health and in your energy.
Terrific. For leaders in their workplaces, are there any early warning signs that leaders should be on the lookout that they might have chronic fatigue issues within their teams?
Yeah. Again, when you are physically or emotionally or mentally or socially stressed, fatigued, this is going to show in your work. It's going to show in your productivity. It's going to show maybe in the days you are not able to go to work. So I think as leaders, if you notice your team is not functioning as well, there is, delays and deadlines, there is something missing. People are, being more absent or being more closed up. They're not talking. So there might be something there. So I think these are some of the warning signs that you need to keep an eye on. It's basically the performance, productivity of your team. And that's why you need to keep assessing the team. It's not a one-time assessment.
Right.
So that's part of the vitality formula. Actually, the third step is to keep assessing things, make sure we improved on that front. Maybe now we need to tackle the other front. So I think assessing, constantly or consistently is the key.
I love that. So you just mentioned the third step. However, I want to jump into the whole vitality formula, and we'll get to that right after this.
When the spotlight shines on your business, are customers applauding or yawning? In other words, how is your business performing? Make your business a star with the new book, Lights, Camera, Action, Business Operational Excellence Through the Lens of Live Theater by Mark Hain. Mark uses his business and acting experience to help you see your business like a live show, so you can create a performance your customers will never forget. Buy Lights, Camera, Action today at your favorite online retailer or directly at markhain.com.
Welcome back. I'm speaking with the founder of the Vitality Formula, Dr. Labib. Dr. Labib, your new book, Gen Talks, Live Clean, is interesting because it puts an interesting spin on how we live today. And it could be part of what we're talking about today could be part of what we're seeing in your book. Could you talk a little bit about your book?
Yeah, actually, you said it correctly. So like fatigue can be due to many causes. Some of them are, very obvious. Some of them can be hidden. And actually, I wrote this book with another, physician, a colleague of mine. And because one of the reasons why people are fatigued, and this was exactly my experience, is toxins or environmental toxins, which are really chemicals that we are exposed to every day. From the moment we wake up until the moment we go to bed, we are exposed to chemicals. And yes, today, if we compare to 20, 30, 40 years, we are more exposed to chemicals, no doubt. And there is a lot of scientific evidence that these toxins that we're putting on our bodies or we're inhaling or we're eating are affecting our hormones. Our hormones are affecting our organs, how our body functions, and this is leading to fatigue. This is, like you said, one of the reasons.
Yes.
There might be other reasons. And in my case, after I discovered, and it took me a while to discover and get to the root cause, because I was so busy at work and I was so fatigued that I didn't even have time to sit down and say, let me see what's causing my fatigue. I was just accepting the status quo. And I wanted, I reached a point in my life, after moving, from Lebanon to the US, I had a bit more time on myself to think about my health and my family's health. And I discovered that my testosterone level, for example, which is one of the hormones that is vital in our life, whether you're a man or a woman, has affected my energy. And then I started asking myself why. And, why is, I think, one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves in anything we do. Is why is this the case? Should I just take testosterone and that's it? I didn't want to do that. So I, dug more into the reasons, and I discovered that my toxin levels were high. And that's what led me to write the book. And I think I was my first patient. So I, worked on myself and tried to figure out where are these toxins coming from, and I tried to avoid them. I did not do any sort of, crazy detox protocols that are out there. Yes, you can maybe, but you have to be careful because some of them are not that, effective. And so you have to be careful. But I think avoiding them and letting your body, which is a great detoxing machine, get rid of these toxins, I improved a lot. I mean, like my health within a year and a half, I would say I improved maybe more than 60, 70%. I'm not, at my optimal level, but I'm much better than, where I was before. And I even tried this technique to, some of my patients, some of my friends, family members, and I really saw the same changes. And, once they systematically looked at the problem, try to work on, few of these baby steps or a few of these pillars in your health, and then 6 months later, reassess your toxins. And when I say toxins, I don't mean by environmental toxins. They can be other types of toxins in our lives. Then, you'll start seeing this improvement. And it took a year and a half for me to, go from way below where I am to slightly above. But I still have, work to do. And this is where the Vitality Formula came from. And, I want to help as many people as possible. And I hope, more, people can try to adopt this formula. It's, when I say formula, it's not like a secret potion. Like, it's only a way of thinking.
So it's not about having a bunch of test tubes and, mixing up stuff and having an evil laugh and
Yeah, exactly. No, this is not it. But there is a way, like every problem, there should be a systemic way of
solving it.
You can't just, get lost in the problems and don't know where to start. So I think it's a way to look back. It's a system that worked for me, worked for some of my patients. And I think it can help young professionals or even, big organizations in working on these points and improving everything from, being happy to go to work to producing more. And eventually, this will lead to better, outcomes to the organization.
Sure. So why don't we introduce the Vitality Formula and its core components? So let's start off with, how do we start shaking up our world to make our lives better?
Yeah, so I really wanted to make something easy, make it like something objective, because the human mind, when you talk about things that are very subjective, gets lost. So I wanted something, scientific, but not overwhelming, because, science and medicine can become sometimes overwhelming. Something very easy to be able to identify first, where are these stressors coming from? So I created, a small questionnaire that will take maybe 2 to 3 minutes from someone's time, but it will give you a lot of information. So I looked at, multiple health pillars that, will help me identify where the problem is. So we would look at, your physical health, which includes your nutrition, your sleep, your energy levels. We look at your emotional status. We look at your mental status, your social status, because this is so important. If you're not surrounded by friends and people, and these people that live to 100 in those blue zones, one of the main things they have is like a community around them and support. So this is very important. It's one of the health pillars. Your financial situation. And then one big thing I noticed that was draining me too is the technology. Our cell phones, our computers, we're always connected to social media, and this really drains our bodies. So by first, trying to calculate and giving what I call the net vitality score, this is, one objective way, and this is the first step. So we would calculate your score, and then based on the score is step 2. And step 2 is where we identify the stressor that's mostly affecting you. It might be all of them, it might be 2 of them, and each one of us is different. So, by trying to assess which problem is affecting you or affecting your team or affecting your organization, we would concentrate on that, try to give people resources, try to give them tips on how to improve that stressor. And then few months later, 6 months or even a year later, retake the score and see where the score is. Once you see improvement in your score, you're going to get, more excited. You're going to feel better about yourself. And then you can move maybe to pillar number 2 or problem number 2. So this is basically, in a nutshell, the vitality formula.
So it's doing an assessment initially is the first step. Then it's
Correct.
Pinpointing and trying different things within the context of our lifestyle. Is that fair?
Exactly.
So when it comes into the second step about kind of visiting different aspects of our lifestyle, what things should we be looking at? Are we looking at just stuff that's happening at work, the stress level, our workloads? What are we looking for?
You cannot disconnect work from your life.
Right.
So I think, your life at home, maybe you spend quite a bit of time or during your day you spend that at work, but, you cannot disconnect them. So it could be, for example, you're getting exposed to toxins at home from the air quality in your house, or you can be having the same thing. You're getting exposed to mold, for example, or toxins in your workplace. It could be that your relationship or your social relationships at home is in a good situation, but at work, you and your colleague are not, on good terms, and there's an issue there. So, and I think everyone has a different set of stressors. So we cannot generalize to everyone. The most important is not to disconnect them.
Okay.
I think they are connected. You can't be healthy at home and unhealthy at work, and vice versa. They are connected somehow. And I think the main issue, a lot of people disconnect them. I'm at work, I'm a different person, but when you come home, you become someone else. No, you are the same person, whether you're at home or at work.
Right. You might have different accountabilities at home or at work, but you're right. You're the same
Absolutely,
person.
yes.
What makes this approach kind of different from other wellness programs? Like you mentioned, there's tons of things out there.
Well, all the organizations now are organizing basically, wellness days or wellness weeks. Of course, some of them have, a whole department that tackles wellness. I can talk about, the setting I'm in a hospital. We do have, for example, residents that are in training. And one of the important things we are very diligent about is to make sure their well-being is sustained, because, we don't want them to burn out and not perform well. And one of the things that was done several years ago is to limit the working hours, for example, for these residents, make sure that they get a day off. They can't work more than 80 hours a week without affecting their education, because,
Right.
Residents are in training. And I think the same thing can apply to other employees. But the problem with this is that basically we're just, identifying who is not doing well and maybe, talking to them one-on-one or patching their problem. We're not getting deep into why is this resident, for example, not performing well. Maybe he has, issues at home that are affecting him. Maybe he has financial problems. Maybe he's exposed to toxins really that are affecting his health. So I think the difference between the vitality formula and a regular wellness program is getting into the root cause of the problem. And this is something I discovered from my own personal experience when I got into what we call now functional medicine. And functional medicine, I used to think maybe 3-4 years ago that it wasn't something that important. It was, maybe a kind of a voodoo science, like, what are you talking about? You're talking about your gut, you're talking about, But now I think it's a very powerful science that can help, physicians identify root causes, solve this, in addition to giving, band-aids or symptom healers. And that way, you'll be able to solve the problem from its primary cause. So I think the difference between the Vitality formula and other wellness is getting into the root cause first before patching the problem. Sometimes you have to patch the problem in order to have time to discover the root.
Yeah.
But you cannot live your life with a Band-Aid on. You have to remove it eventually.
Sometimes you have to patch the leak before you can find out what the source of the leak is.
Exactly. So I think that's the difference.
This is really fascinating for anybody who this is resonating with. Could you let everyone know how they can get in touch with you if they want to explore working with you through your Vitality framework to help them uncover some of it?
Yes, of course, I have a website that's actually, as we speak, we're revamping the website. So,
looking good.
In a couple of weeks, it'll be ready and up. And then, of course, on Instagram, I have my account with my name on it. I have a LinkedIn account. So these are the 3 ways, that people can contact me if they need help one-on-one, or if they really need help, to have a keynote or a workshop for, a small team or organization. This is the best way to find me. Or maybe, they can, log on to your website, contact you, and you can contact me because, we're always in contact.
The link will be in the show notes.
I mean, these days, it's so easy to find people.
Yeah, it is. Just Google Dr. Labib, you'll find him.
Exactly.
So you mentioned earlier about kind of a net vitality score. How does the net vitality score work as a tool for measuring energy levels and health?
Yeah, because it's a questionnaire that's, I even validated this questionnaire on multiple people to make sure this is, really correct. It's giving me a score that's really showing weakness or not weakness.
Right.
And, there's multiple questions and each question is scored. And then depending on the final objective score, we can, know if this person is really suffering. And then we look back at where were the weak points in the scoring system. And then that's where we work on. So I try to make it as objective as possible, but I don't want to make it, too boring and too scientific because, we all run away whenever we get in our emails, can you please do this survey? We know they tell you it's going to take 2 minutes and you end up
committing half a lifetime.
Yeah. And you stop in the middle of it. And, so I put myself, whenever you are fatigued, you don't even have the energy to do a survey. So I wanted to make it as less painful and quick and really informative as much as possible.
I love it. Is that something that they can contact you for and get this assessment? Or is it something that's available on your website or what?
Yeah, whenever we're working with an organization and we decide to work together, I'll be sending out, the assessment or the net vitality score to these individuals. Sometimes if it's a one-on-one, we can do the vitality score just, together. It doesn't have to be done, on the side, by going through very detailed, maybe a questionnaire, a bit more than the net vitality score. We can get deeper into the person's, history. In the functional medicine world, we really go back, from the day they were born and even before that, how they were born and, what they had issues during their childhood, whether they were exposed to certain things during their childhood. So we get into their, deeper into their medical history, social history, what are the obstacles they went through in their childhood, adulthood. So, you get deeper into, you get into what we call the matrix. So we can do this a bit deeper when it's a one-on-one consultation.
I love that. That sounds amazing. I'd like to toss around some ideas about implementing this and some of these strategies in today's workforce, and we'll get to that right after this.
Attention, meeting and event planners. Is your company or association planning a live or virtual conference, seminar, or staff retreat? Are you looking for a fresh, energetic perspective on what it takes to put on a jaw-dropping experience for your customers or staff? Book customer experience expert Mark Hain for your next group event. Past participants have said, Mark kept us in stitches while teaching us how important and powerful actually designing our customer experience can be. Read more testimonials and find out how Mark can serve you and your group at markhain.com. That's markhaine.com.
Welcome back. I hope you are getting tons of value from today's episode. As you can tell, Dr. Labib and I are on a mission to support businesses just like yours. So if you belong to an organization that could use our help, or you or someone you know might be planning a leadership retreat or a conference, drop us a line. We would love to explore how we could be of service to you and your people. Dr. Labib, would you say that the Vitality Formula is a one-size-fits-all solution when you're talking about workplaces, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely not. It cannot be a one-size-fits-all, but it's like a big framework that every organization can use, but every organization is special. Every organization has their type of people. The age group of the people is different sometimes from different organizations.
Right.
Stressors can be different. Their geographic area can be also affecting them. So no, it cannot be a one-size-fits-all formula. And now even in medicine, we are shying away from this. We're getting into the personalized, tailored care for every patient. We are all genetically different. We all respond to stressors differently. If you are exposed, Mark, for example, to mold, for example, you might have some genes that you were born with that can detoxify, for example, these molds or these toxins, whereas I might not have them and I might be affected more than you. So there's no way it can be a size fit all. And today, with the advancement in medicine and with AI, I know this is a very hot topic. I'm not going to talk about AI, but it's going to help us, find out every person plan or genetic makeup and finding what are the stressors that are affecting them, and then accordingly tailor a plan or a formula or a protocol for them to improve. So no, it cannot be the same, protocol for every organization person.
So how can you tailor the Vitality Formula to fit different individuals within our teams? Because my background, I have 85, 100, 120 people who might be working within my department. How can we execute the Vitality Formula on a scale that can help the individuals within my teams?
Yeah, I think once we identify through the first step, where is the weakness? Of course, you might have multiple weaknesses, but you want to identify the weakness that's mostly affecting that team. And you work on that point. Then you can come back a few months later and work on the second point after you do another reassessment. It's very difficult because it's such a heterogeneous group of people and everybody, like I said, is different. So you cannot just, have one formula for everyone, but you can have a formula that can, help the majority, I would say. And then, at a later stage, you can tackle another problem. But it's impossible to tackle everybody at the same time with one session, with one keynote or one workshop. It's very important to understand that this is not like a switch.
Sure.
It's something that you need to, tweak and work on. The nice thing about it is once you identify it, people can start working individually on their own, and they don't have to, go back to the whole team. If everybody does it on their own and identify their own problem and get the right resources, then you will have a better outcome.
That's not to eliminate things like might be environmental causes, right? You mentioned mold, for instance, like doing an air quality check within your office space, eliminating neon lights which suck up vitamin D, or said to say, I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not a medical professional, but somebody said that neon lights suck up vitamin D. Being able to look at whether or not you have nature around us sometimes. Like I do know that there are some businesses that have put up living walls to help cleanse air and that sort of stuff. So some of it is environmental, some of it is individual based. What are some of the things that organizations can do to be able to figure out what is it I'm in control of versus what they're in control of?
Yeah, part of the scoring system is, when we talk about, the physical part, we do ask some questions that might give us a hint about, exposure to toxins. People that have, chronic headaches, brain fogs, a lot of allergies, this can, lead us more to the area that maybe it's an environmental, physical problem. Right. And then we can, advise these organizations to check their air quality, check their water quality, where are these people drinking their coffee from. So yes, we can get into the details once we identify, something that leads us to maybe an environmental problem.
Okay.
If it's something more into the, let's say, people are always, not concentrating well, and it could be something related to, their social media exposures. So we can also check those and maybe come up with some certain rules or things that will help these employees. So yes, the scoring system helps us know where to look. And yes, of course, sometimes we might not be able to fully identify one problem, but the way I created it, it's going to let us know in which direction to look first.
Okay. It kind of is like peeling back an onion to get to the core, right? You're going layer by layer by layer.
Exactly.
So how can businesses avoid the trap of quick fix solutions? Like I just mentioned, neon lights. Well, people can go running into their offices now and say, let's change everything to LED so we don't have neon lights anymore. That's a quick fix solution, but does it address the symptoms of the problem or the symptoms of fatigue? How do they avoid the trap of quick fix and Band-Aids?
Yeah, I think like you said it correctly. I mean, I think you should look at the whole organization, at the whole office, think a bit differently. And from time to time, if it's been years since you've checked the quality of the air or water in your office, maybe it's a good time to do that. And I think, like we said, it took years to become fatigued, so you cannot fix it in a second.
Right.
So I think being patient and working slowly, taking baby steps, I think is very important. And because if you look outside the office, people are getting sick with chronic diseases, and the environment is a big role. So I think it's also one good place to start with, because you will find a lot of issues in that sector.
Right.
So definitely the environment in the office is super, super important.
So are there any cautionaries about people wanting, they might be tuning into this episode, they might get some information and go, yeah, I could see this happening in my space, and want to do a quick fix? You mentioned that there is no real quick fix. It took so long to do it. But aside from that, are there any other cautionaries about what we should be concerned about working today and trying to make a change?
I think knowledge is so important, learning about where these toxins come from. So there are a lot of courses, online that people can take that will let you know or identify where these toxins are coming from. Because you might not be aware that, the shampoo you're using, the toothpaste you're using every day, the fragrances you're putting on your body or in your car, when you're getting into your car, the sun, hits your car, and there's a lot of plastic things that are coming into you're breathing all these plastic or like these vapors that are coming from your plastic. The water we're drinking nowadays, there's a lot of studies showing that the water, the plastic bottles we're drinking from are full of microplastics that are being discovered in lungs and blood and even placentas of pregnant patients, which means our kids are getting exposed to. So I think being knowledgeable, especially if you're a leader, or not only if you're a leader, like this is for everyone. Even if you're not a leader, you're a leader at home, you're a leader of your own health. Yeah. So I think trying to gather power and knowledge will make you powerful in identifying these things that you never thought about. But I always tell people not to obsess about these things, because our body gets rid of them. But I think today we are overstimulating or burdening our bodies with these things. So trying to filter some out will make a huge difference. So I think that's one of the things one of the messages that I would like to relate to leaders is to try to think outside the box of your office, and look at your office from far and see maybe there's something in there that's causing all these symptoms to my employees. Why, every week I have one or two people like calling in sick at the last minute.
Yes. Dr. Labib, this has been absolutely fantastic. Could you remind everybody one more time how they can get a hold of you?
So one of the ways they can get a hold of me is through my website, drlabibg.com, or on Instagram, Dr. Labib GHULMIYYAH. I know my last name is long, but it's once you type GHU, you will find it. And then of course on LinkedIn also under my name. So these are the three ways that you can get in touch with me.
And you can check the show notes. It's going to be in the show notes as well.
Of course.
As we wrap up, do you have any last thoughts?
Have an open mind. Know that the solutions are there, but you have to take them slowly. And don't neglect and don't just concentrate on the work, because health, work, and productivity are all connected. So if you feel you're not producing well, look back and check your health. I'm just worried that, this issue is going to get worse and worse. So if we can stop it now, or try to identify the issues now, we're gonna, save ourselves a lot of problems in the future.
Yeah.
And lastly, I would like to really thank you for, allowing me to talk about this. And I know you are very passionate about these things, especially when we first you and I spoke about it. You told me how important this topic is, and I'm very glad that we were, able to do this today. And hopefully people, can reach out to me or to other, experts out there that can, help their organization and help them as humans on one-to-one basis. So thank you again for having me.
Well, thank you, Dr. Labib. I really appreciate that you're here sharing your knowledge, your passion, and your expertise. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Got any questions about today's episode? Or maybe you're thinking, hey, we could really use a complimentary 30-minute brainstorming session with Mark? Well, good news. You can snag a spot on my calendar. Just hit up the link below, the one that's marked meetwith.markhane.com, and you're all set. As always, I am at your service. And if you haven't done so yet, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to this feed? Make sure that you are following me on social media and linking to the podcast on a regular basis, subscribing to the podcast, because that'll give you notification whenever I bring you fresh new content each and every week. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you got tons of value. My name is Mark Hain. I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope you dare to be the exception.
Thank you for joining us this week on Experienced Leadership. Make sure you visit markhane.com for a full directory of available episodes. While you're at it, if you found today's content valuable, please share it and tell your friends about the show. As Mark says, knowledge is power, but only if you share it. Be sure to tune in each week for the newest episode. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and dare to be the exception.